on page Men Gimel, 5 lines from the top. So on this page, in these 5 lines, we have learned that the principle of zivugim is not mentioned in Kabbalah with respect to the igulim aspect. Even though in igulim also, as we pointed out, there is a process that of ishtalshus, coming down, and yet it's not mentioned in terms of zivugim, because in this process of igulim, there is not a real metzius. And since there is not a real metzius, therefore it cannot, the atzmus element cannot be tolerated. And should there be a gilui ver atzmus, then yizbatel legamrin, and the whole mitzias ceases to be, loses its presence. And we will still discuss it, and I want to really kind of expand on this so we'll understand the principle behind it.
But just to clarify, but in Yosher, there is a hisgalus of atzmus, and it doesn't mevatel the mitzias?
There are 5 lines from the top.
Can you hear me, Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, fine.
Can I ask a question? Why is the Sifrei Kabbalah that we say Shalom Nimtza? What is it about Sifrei Kabbalah that we say Shalom Nimtza?
All right, 5 lines from the top. Ava b'Yosher, but in Yosher, liyois hamakabel hu bebechinas mitzius dover, being that the makabel is in the realm, in the mitzius, in the bechina, it qualifies as a mitzius dover, as a real presence. Harei hu yochel lekabel, so he is capable to accept and receive gam bechinas ho'atzmus, even the bechina of atzmus, v'lo yizbatel, and he will not lose his presence. Okay, 2 more lines or so, and then we'll put this in perspective. V'zehu, and this, therefore, this is the point that we made earlier. Di'in hazivugim, that the principle of zivugim is rag b'bchinas hayosher, is present only in the yosher b'china. The yoish di'in hazivug, being that the in of zivug hu b'chinas hashpah atzmis, has the quality of hashpah atzmis, and hashpah atzmis v'zeh shayach, I'm skipping the parentheses here, v'zeh shayach rag b'bchinas hayosher, and hashpah atzmis is only possible in the yosher bechina. All right. So this is all we're getting here from the Maimer. Let us focus in a little bit. We spoke about it a little bit this morning. The Yigulim, we said there is total beating. There's not a real Metzias. It's a Ha'ora only. Because in Yigulim, the lower Madrega is totally embraced and encompassed by the higher Madrega. And it is completely bottled to that source. It does not recognize itself as a Metzias. It does not sense that it's receiving something. It does not sense even, this is the important point, it does not even sense the significance of the higher Madrega. What's so great about it? Because it's completely encompassed by it, it's bottled to it, and it doesn't even consider what is it about. In Yosher, on the other hand, again, what is the meaning of the word Yosher? Yosher means a straight line. What does it allude to? What does a straight line mean? A straight line means, and I mentioned several times over these days, Yosher, there is not a total severance from the source. It's recognized that this is the source. But it's not encompassed by it. It's not embraced by the source. This is where it's all coming from. And I'm at a distance from that. And I recognize this is where it's all coming from. What do I recognize? What is my impression of that source? I'm a little pawn at the bottom of the totem pole. And this entire greatness is coming from that source. So what is my impression of that source? This is where I can to recognize, hey, there is greatness. As small as I am recognize that there is such thing as greatness. Infinitely greater than my own Metzias. Even though I recognize a greatness that is totally superior to my own Metzias, I remain a Metzias. Because I understand it. I'm watching it happening. I don't get embraced by it. I remain Metzias, and I understand this greater thing. When I recognize the greater thing, I understand. I recognize its presence. This is Yosher. Rabbi refers to hashpah of Oyer Atzmi, because ultimately, as we mentioned many times, the real source of Oyer is from an Etzem. Again, just to remind us, Etzem is not something that we can possibly identify in our world. Etzem exists, please follow these words, Etzem exists only because the world was created by something, by an Etzem. What does it mean by an Etzem? Everything in the world demands an explanation. Where are you coming from? What are you doing here? What sustains you? How do you exist? Except for the original source. That source does not require an explanation where it's coming from. Okay? How can something that is totally dependent on understanding of source, give and take, you of your own, how can something like that relate and recognize that there is something that does not have a beginning? Does not need a beginning. Where the question of beginning, it doesn't even apply. And remain a Metzius. And doesn't dissipate. Do you understand my question? The answer is because he was given through the process of Yeshua a Metzius. His intellect is very limited, but he doesn't dissipate. He's a Metzius, he's a presence. Since that he is a presence that he cannot explain what kind of presence this is, he can therefore relate to the fact that there is a presence that does not need an explanation.
One more time, because he's a presence that he cannot explain. He cannot explain his own presence.
He cannot explain his own presence, exactly right. In Yegulim, he doesn't have a presence to explain.
Mm-hmm.
In Yoshin, he has a presence. And I'm just here. Yes, there is a source. And how come I'm here? Because this source is able to create something that does not have a source. This is what the Rebbe explains in Tanya. That Gashmius, Kumenius, that attests to the inner of Atzmus, because I'm quoting from the Tanya directly, Hu levadehu bekoichi v'yicholte, only he and only he, which means the source, that the one who is on top of the entire structure, beyond the whole structure. Who, the Asmus itself, only he, the koiche v'yicholte, it is within his koyach, within his power and within his capacity. Libra yesh miyayin be'efes hamucha, to create a yesh, a presence from total non-existence, and giving this yesh a sense, but it doesn't need a source. He is a presence. The union that we are asking, where do we come from? That's our intelligence. That's our intelligence. Because we're intelligent, our seichel says, no, there has to be. That's the seichel of the yesh, and that's the great significance of that seichel. Like the Alter Rebbe explains, it's read by the Chassidus all the time. When one stands in the presence of a melech, of a king, he becomes totally nizbat. One observes the whole entourage and the whole phenomenon of a melech, and if he doesn't, then he looks like a fool. That's what Alter Rebbe says. He looks like a fool. He is standing in the presence of this greatness, and he is not affected. He doesn't appreciate it. He's a fool. Which means that this whole appreciation, the whole beating upon the Melech is not due to the power that the Melech has over him. If the Melech can eliminate your existence, that's not the point. The point is that in our intellect, in our sense of reality, we appreciate We know that there is this greatness that is beyond description, beyond understanding. And when we encounter that greatness, we stand in total beaten respect for it. Why? Because we have that capacity to appreciate it. Not because we are afraid for our skin. Because we have the capacity to appreciate. That is the seichel in Yosher. Like we spoke many times. Let me first take a census. Do I have you with me? Said many times when the Medrash says that Hoyshom Pikach Hechad, there was one Pikach. When I'm meeting up with the king and everybody is talking about, oh, what is this going to bring to our country? What this minister? Pikach Hechad, the Pikach says, the Melech, that's what we're getting. So what are we getting in the Melech? What are we getting in the Melech? We're getting a substantiation of reality. This is the Melech. It does not give us anything on the practical level. On the contrary, in Igulim, we are much more secure. We are actually embraced by the whole capacity of the higher Madrig, and we don't have to be concerned about existence, about sustenance. It's like a baby in the womb. We're a baby in the womb, but we are not a real essence, we're not mitzvahs. So, sustenance in the terms of existence, we have without limit. Not only without limit, we don't even have a question about it, because we're embraced in the womb. The baby in the womb does not sense that it needs to be fed. It's fed through its umbilical cord. Venously. Totally and effortlessly and unawares. It's not a full-fledged human individual. And therefore, he doesn't have the capacity to understand and to relate to something, to an etzem, to a real mitzias, to a real truth. And he is a mitzias, as small as he is, and as limited as he is, but he is a mitzias. A mitzias, by definition, has an infinity element in it. A mitzias domer is a real presence. And because he's a Metzias Dover, he can recognize that this is greatness. He doesn't appreciate what greatness is, what supremacy and superiority, but he is bottled to the greatness. And this beetle does not negate his own Metzias, it doesn't dissipate. On the other hand, when we have the Igulim perspective, method, where we understand the whole process, how this sustains this and this sustains this, like we said this morning, actually this is, so to speak, the scientific method. They cannot comprehend that there is a Metzias. How can it be a Metzias? There has to have been a complete process that one thing made another, one thing resulted in another, but there's no real Metzius. There's no reality. There's not even a human being. Imagine that. Should you show a real Metzius, the whole thing ceases to exist. Where can a human being or any truth recognize a regular, simple seichel a seichel definition, an intellectual definition? A definition means here is the reality of it. This is what this is about. That can only be in Yosher. This explains the words in the Maimer and the concept to bring it down to us in a totally tangible manner. First of all, you're with me, right? Okay. Because this is. I'm sorry, you can't come once in 2 weeks and then be with it. Okay. Please listen. Okay, here's. I want to bring it in a tangible way. I want to demonstrate in the same focus where we see things in an Iguli manner and an Yosher manner. A table. Did you guess it was going to be a table?
That was my cat.
Huh? Now we spoke about a table many times. We explained that there are actually two distinct levels in this entity called a table. There's the human element, and there is its factual presence. Its factual presence is that there is a board, and the board provides space for whatever has to be put up with it. But then the board needs support. So therefore, we put up a few legs, and the legs hold it up in a certain height, and that becomes a useful entity, a table. It's not a table per se, it's not an entity. The result of a board standing on 4 legs has a certain function, or can be used in a certain function. There is not an initial, essential definition of that entity. It has a function. Who can use a function? The one who understands how to use it. The one who doesn't understand it doesn't use it. And when you understand, you use it. When you're not interested in, it doesn't exist. It exists only as a function. This is what ha'oral about. There is not a fundamental reality to it. Then we come from a completely different perspective, as we discussed many times. That just as a home is an essential human reality, to the extent that the Gemara says, Odem shein lebayis eni odem. And we explained the significance of this, that this home is actually representing the human fundamental godly presence in the world. It represents his royal presence in the world. This is his presence in the world. And similarly, in the home there's a table. Why is there a table in the home? Because this home serves a human being. And the human being as I said, he has a royal status. And as a royal status, he has a real presence. If he has a cup in his hand, he needs a cup next to him, there has to be something that will be ready to support it. In other words, this table is an extension of the human spirit, of the human status. It's not the result of 4 legs and a board. It's a real entity. It has a real presence. The 4 legs and the board is only capturing it, making it possible in the physical realm. But the concept itself is a real concept. So therefore, when we are looking at the table from the perspective that this is a board supported on 4 legs, and then we present to that and say, 4 legs and a board, this is a real human spirit. The whole Metzius falls apart. You lose sense, you lose awareness of the 4 legs and the board altogether. You see something completely different. It's not even able to relate to that kind of a reality. So this is exactly what it is. In that realm, you can relate to something etzem, and that's its reality. Okay, and this is what the Rebbe explained. This is why the principle of zivugim, as we have explained a great length in this minor, that in zivug which brings about hey Lord, that means that in zivug there is hashpah atzmus, and in igulim it's not possible.
On the table, the extension of the human spirit. This is, what's the nimshal for this? Seeing the table as the extension of the human spirit is the atzmius.
Etzem ha'oyer that represents etzem.
And this is representing the yosher.
This is only possible in the yosher process. In other words,
who's
if
the makabel in that mashal? Who's the one that's receiving the? Okay, sorry.
It's not. Yes, it can go. That's not the point. That's not the point. This is possible only in yosher because in yosher the human being is a real presence. Because it's real presence, therefore he has a real presence in the world, and therefore he has a home, and therefore he has a table.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes.
So why did he go from the distinction between zivug gufni and zivug ruchni, and now we're making a distinction between zivug b'chlal and which occurs in yosher, but it doesn't occur in igulim?
Because the principle of zivugim, this zivug ruchni is not really a zivug, because it doesn't really create anything.
So now we're following up on the fact that a real zivug creates something.
That's right.
By showing that where you don't have yesher, you can't have any kind of zivug at all.
Well, you can put it this way. We're coming to it from a different angle. You're saying we understand what the Inha Zivug is. And now we understand why Zivug is mentioned only in Yosher and not in Igulim, because only in Yosher can there be a Gilu for Alva Etz.
because only in Yeshur is there an Indian of Messias.
That's right. Only Yeshua is a Metzius, Dover Ma, and only Metzius Dover Ma can tolerate a hashpoah from the Etz.
It's a little ironic or counterintuitive, isn't it, that Dafka a Dover Ma is able to tolerate a Gili of Etzim. You would think that a Gili of Etzim, even in Yeshur, is going to mevatel the Dover Ma.
Well, here is the simple illustration.
The table?
No. The Melech issues a command, and all the people in the country obey that command. Obey the command means what? That they use all of their faculties. This is the command from the king, and they use their faculties, all of their faculties, to follow through and obey that command. It doesn't happen automatically. The Melech said, and therefore it happens automatically. It didn't happen automatically. This is what's called Kabbalah Soil. Kabbalah Soil Malchus Shemayim.
That command is a Gili of the Etzim?
Yes, a command from the Melech is a command from the Melech. It's not a command from the Melech, Seichel or Midas. I like you to do this. If it's a nice thing to do, no. A Melech doesn't say it's a nice thing to do.
So Gili Etzim doesn't mean that the Melech reveals to them somehow who he is, what he is. He's not revealing that. They never know that anyway.
No, he reveals the fact that there is an Etzim. And that's what Oyer Atzim is. The fact that there is an Etzim.
And this would not be tolerated in Igulin.
It would not be recognized. It would not be accepted. That's right. It could not. It's not tolerated. Does not mean that he would reject it. He would just dissipate.
Right.
It doesn't have the
Paltiel.
Yeah.
Isn't it that in Igulin, they're already bottled to begin with?
Yes, they are bottled to begin with.
So how would they become bottled completely if they're already bottled?
They are bottled due to the process of their existence, but they don't recognize the source of their being. They recognize the source, the essential, the etzem.
So what are they bottled to?
They are bottled to that which gives them chayas.
Which is a higher madrega above them?
What?
Which is a higher madrega of the Igulin?
Yeah, the high madrega of the Gurim gives chayas to the lower madrega of the Gurim. Who am I talking to?
Slowly.
Oh.
Hey.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Sorry, I don't recognize your voice. Like to hear you more often.
All right.
You understand that it's a very important principle. This is where we say, Kabbalah say Machal Shemayim. So Kabbalah say Machal Shemayim, you say, oh, you're gaining my home mitzvahs. Just do. Kabbalah say Machal Shemayim reveals your mitzvahs. It substantiates your mitzvahs. Because only because of your mitzvahs you're able to appreciate that there is a melech. And you can relate to the atmos of the melech. No other creature has that privilege. To appreciate, so to speak, real greatness. This is We spoke about it many times when by Matan Torah even said Nasa v'nishma. Nasa v'nishma, what are they negating their own intelligence? This is the real intelligence. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but right after that they worship the golden calf. You can't maintain it in this.
The answer to your question? It's 3,500 years since. Okay? That answer your question? Baruch Hashem. Huh? You understand? Yes. There was a failing, and there was a failing of a certain group. 3,500 years, and we are standing strong. You say we can't maintain. And in these 3,500 years, we went through
Hell.
Hell is a total understatement. Just to bring the point back home, our recognition of the godly truth is a true recognition. It's not out of fear, and it's not out of necessity. It is our personal recognition. This is the truth. And this recognition proves itself in the fact that you may be enticed to all kinds of different things. And in the back of our mind we see, but this is the truth. A truth which we never observed, which we never saw. Our reality says this is the truth. And with that we can overcome any kind of obstacles. The Rebbe was especially fond of Baal Tshuva. The Rebbe said his thing is to make Baal Tshuva. What was the special thing that the Rebbe saw in the Baal Tshuva? Baal Tshuva, the Lashon in the Gemara is Tom Tam Chet. Tom Tam Chet. You can't say, Yeshua Bachur, he's never tasted the world. Okay, so he's just going along. He doesn't really know what he's doing. Somebody who has been there, and somebody who's Tom Tam Chet, and he had seen this and he experienced it. And then deep down he recognized there's a truth that he's ready to throw all of this out. And he's struggling to get out of it. This is possible only in Yosher. But he is a real Mitzias, and he's personally cognizant of the truth. He doesn't see it, but he's personally, he's attesting to it. Bring me a proof. He's a proof. I see it. What did I see lately? a Reform rabbi. No, what I saw just recently. A Reform rabbi came to the Rebbe. And he's from Reform, Reform Rebbe. He came to the Rebbe and he says he came to get some faith, some emunah, to get some influx of emunah. So the Rebbe said, what did you come here for? What about yourself? You have your own resource. Focus on your own resource and you'll find it. I don't know exactly the Rebbe elaborated, but this is how it came down historically. So the Rebbe said, what do you come here for? What about yourself? You are the best testimony for faith. You're a Reform rabbi, and you have been successful in your thing, and you came for some faith. Okay.
That fact that he came to the Rebbe, that itself shows that everyone.
Yeah, he came, right? Nothing pushed him. Why did he come? Because he saw what the truth is.
And that dissolves the entire CS of the form.
Excuse me?
And that one flash basically dissolves the entire materials of the.
See, Mando, the point is this. The point how it fits in here is very important. He came to the Rebbe, so the Rebbe should prove to him, should show him. He says, no, you're not a fish. You're a human being. All the truth that you are supposed to know, you have to find in yourself. Nothing has to be shown to you. Wake up, don't be lazy, focus in and recognize your own truth. You want to sit back and lie down like a fish and be shown, that's not our thing.
On the other hand, you say that the Yiddishkeit is derech Hashem. It's not something it's something you do have to go to a mashpia to.
You have to mashpia to find the path, but not the essence. The essence is yours. Sometimes help you out difficult moments, but yes, you need a mashpia to find the path and to be able to sort out your own obstacles, your own stumbling blocks, and so forth. But the essence is yours. I say sometimes a mashpia has to hit you over the head. What do you mean hit me over the head? So how do you expect me to accept that? I expect you to accept that. Because you're a real Metzius, you're a real presence. Sometimes you have to, electric shock wakes a person up. To his real reality.
We say you are Batla in front of the king in his presence. You are Batla in front of the king in his presence, right?
You are bottled, but you're not nullified. You're bottled because you're bottled in front of that greatness, of the beetle.
So it's an intellectual recognition, and it's not.
It's right. It's right. It's the essence of the intellectual. So the Oir Atzmi. There's different levels of deep beetle. There's a beetle. Chassidus explains when one intellectual is bottled in front of a greater intellectual. So that's an intellectual type of beetle, and then there's an essential beetle. I've seen secular people, literally secular people, intelligent, but secular people, coming in contact with a Chassid who was totally, and Emerson, Hadib mitzvahs, 100%. Ahum Torah mitzvahs was his lifeline, his truth. They stood in awe in front of him. This is real. This is real.
Sorry, which batal is that? Is that an intellectual recognition or an essential batal?
No, this is an essential beetle. They didn't understand what was going on. Not only did they understand, they knew that he is a simpleton. He's not a great scholar. He's just a truthful person. He's not a scholar. Scholastically, they were superior to him.
And in front of the king, it's an essential bittul. But then why is he called a fool if he doesn't see what's going on? How could he be? Oh, it's not. Okay, it's higher than see. Still called a fool if he doesn't recognize.
The truth is, as I mentioned many times, there's a fool and there's an idiot. A fool is one thing, an idiot is something else. Him you can't even blame, he's an idiot. He's not well, you know.
This kindness by the Gulen, this is coming from the Makabel, the too much bittul, so to speak. It's excessive bittul, so it can receive the or. That's the downfall of the bittul.
Well, it's inside the Makabel, but by the Makabel it is due to the type of hashpor he's getting. In other words, like I mentioned the other day, that a child, we spoke about it some time ago, a child, he has kirin ktani. Why is it called kirin ktani? Because even what he learns and he understands, he substantiates his understanding on the basis of what his teacher told him. He knows it's true because his teacher told him. His father told him. He doesn't substantiate it with his own insight, with his own self. For this reason, it is important, as we are all raising children, that we have to raise our children and give them substantiation up at a certain point. At a certain point, say, you know this on your own. What do you think? Because if we continue to supply him with the answers, then indeed he doesn't develop that inner intelligence.
Metzias davar.
Huh?
Metzias davar.
Yeah. In conclusion of this point, this is the value of a test. You sit in class and you learn or you study whatever it is. And then you come to a test. What's a test? Test is where you're alone, basically. Nobody's there to support you. Nobody's there to help you. And you sit with a piece of paper and you're stumped. What am I supposed to answer? I never thought of this question. It doesn't bother me. You know, a teacher told me it's a question, and this is the answer. It's interesting that a test in Chassidus traditionally was never applied. Never given. There was no such thing as testing in Chassidus. Going back in the Alter Heim.
In Nigla they did.
In Nigla they did. They would sit, yes, would ask questions, you know. What's halacha in this? Especially halacha, you know, they always, you know, how does one get smicha? But in Chassidus we never tested. And all the mashpim felt Chassidus is above testing. This is a neshama zach. It's not to ask questions. Do you know? Do you know? You know what I'm saying? The Rebbe said, it's okay. The older generations will meichel. We have to have tests. And since then they started. They had tests in the yeshiva. I was in Montreal. I used to come here basically 4 times a year. 2 times we come home to Yom Tov, or 2 times we come here by merit. You can come in like Yud Shvat and Shavuos, whatever it is. You came if you merit it. And one of the things is that you have to be tested.
How do they call it? Fahen?
Fahen, yeah.
Before you can come.
Before you can come, or else you can come and agree to be tested here.
You have to go back and go.
What's the significance of testing? This is the significance of testing. Do you know something of your own, or are you were shaking your head? I understand what you were saying to me. That's not good.
So why don't you test it?
Huh?
So why don't you test it?
Won't I test you?
You're afraid of what's going to happen.
Well, I'll tell you later.
You know anyway.
I do test.
No one's anyway.
I get feedback. That's why most of the time I present a new idea. I ask, what do you think? For me, just to say the idea is meaningless. Even on fundamental questions as to, is there a difference between a human being and an animal? It has to come from the individual. Is there a difference?
Took us about 4 years.
What?
Took about 4 years.
Yeah.
So bittul doesn't mean nullification, it means deference.
Oh yeah, that means nullification. That's the bittul of Igulim.
Unbelievable.
And
I was
because it's a
holding
bittul of
it
Igulim,
so
it does not show anything. It doesn't show the greatness of the king. It's insignificant.
Unbelievable.
Okay, thank you.
Right where would be deference?
Okay, now we're going into the phenomenal conclusion of this whole discussion. V'zehu inyan, and this is the principle that the Medrash says. The Yurim Pikhin, wise and smart dwellers, open-minded dwellers. This is when the waters were gathered in and you had dry land. Before that, the palace was filled with fish. Very bottle and told, but they're the union ilmin. They have nothing to say of their own. Now they can be union pikhin. Hainu his galus bechinas hamechin, which is his galus, the surface of the moichin element. Moichin element means, let me explain how moichin comes into here. And I said it many times. The principle of moichin is, how do I know that there's a table here? My seichel tells me that. Not because of my hand hits the table. That's my moichin. The whole reality of the world I know because my seichel it sees it, recognizes it, not sees it physically, understands its presence. Those is God's presence. I substantiate that it exists. And for me to substantiate, for the Meichel to substantiate that something exists, can only be because there is a reality, there's a godly reality. Otherwise, how does the Meichel know that it exists? This is what the Rambam says. What is the beginning, the prerequisite, the preamble for Seichel, for Chochmah? To know there is a first being. And that gives substance to everything else. Is Galus Bechinas HaMoichin. The Prat, and then moreover, Binyan HaZivugim, the Hizgalus of Moichin in the Zivug element, Shezeho Hamshochet Bechinas Atzmis HaMoichin, where there is Hamshochet or the Bechin of Atzmis HaMoichin, that is Zivug, that is Pikhin. That is really Pikhin. Okay, this is it for this evening.
I should say, Jay, that tables exist, but that this table exists also. You're saying that's Mechinas HaMoichin?
This table exists. You know why? Why?
Because it's your home.
Because it's my home. That's Moichin.
This table exists because